Monza is the most historic and evocative Grand Prix circuit of them all. Opened in the 1920s, it's seen literally all the greats of Grand Prix racing. But Monza is under threat. And here's the reason. The vastly overcrowded paddock, which has got to be made a lot larger to accommodate the booming Formula One entry of some 40 cars in 1989. And here behind me is the second part of the problem, trees in what was once a royal park. Now those trees are protected, and there is a lot of argument going on about whether they could be cut down and should be cut down. But I'm quite sure that a way will be found somehow. Meantime, it's all set for round 12 of the Grand Prix World Championship of 1988, the Italian Grand Prix. Now, the Constructors' Championship is all wrapped up. McLaren have got it in the bag. In the Drivers' Championship, there's only one question to be resolved. Is it going to be a McLaren with Senna at the wheel or a McLaren with Prost at the wheel? Monza is traditionally the place where many of the rumours turn into fact, and that is exactly what has happened this year, and 4 of those rumours were concerned with the Lotus team. Now, we know that Lotus in 1989 are losing Honda engines and will be using the Judd V8 engine instead. We know that Nelson Piquet will again be driving for Lotus. We know that Lotus have retained their mega-buck sponsor, and we know that their French designer Gérard Ducarouge is leaving them to join the Larousse Lola team. Exciting news for Britain is that Derek Warwick has put us out of our agony by saying that he is again going to drive for Arrows in 1989. And more exciting news is that the German Zakspeed team, who hitherto have used their own engine, will next year be using a brand new 3.5-litre V8 Yamaha works engine with all the might of Yamaha behind them. McLaren during 1989 will have an exclusive on the Honda normally aspirated engine. Monza is still seething with speculation about one thing, however, and that is who is going to be driving the second Williams alongside Thierry Boutsen next year. Michele Alboreto, that most people thought was going to be the man, is going round saying very disgruntledly that it's not going to be him. If that is right, the second Williams driver will be Riccardo Patrese. And Williams continue to be in the news, because here at Monza, for the second Grand Prix in succession, no Nigel Mansell, but no Martin Brundle either. The Jaguar team have said that they would prefer him not to race in Grand Prix again while he is in second place in the Sports Car World Championship. But ironically, his place has been taken by Frenchman Jean-Louis Schlesser, who's leading the Sports Car World Championship. This will be his first Grand Prix. And Jean-Louis Schlesser is 22nd on the grid for his first Grand Prix. But it is Ayrton Senna in a record pole position, his 10th in one season. Second, it's Alain Prost. Now, he's no worse, it's just that Senna seems to improve with every race. Third, yet again, Gerhard Berger, and his problem isn't Berger, it's his Ferrari. It's just a bit too slow. Fourth, Michele Alboreto in his last Italian Grand Prix for Ferrari. Now, fifth on the grid, Eddie Cheever. That's his highest this season, and his Arrows is really flying. Sixth, Derek Warwick. It's his highest grid position this year too, and he's hopeful of finishing in the top 3.
Buon pomeriggio dall'autodromo di Monza, siete collegati in diretto con la tradizionale pista lombarda. Come vedete le macchine sono già schierate, sono 26 i partenti, sapete già che Ayrton Senna da Silva ha la pole position, è la 10ª, è un record, è la 26esima della sua carriera, è la pedana di lancio, se così si può dire, verso la conquista del titolo mondiale 1988. Stamani nel warm-up, nella mezz'ora in cui i piloti provano le vetture che sono state allestite dai meccanici dopo le qualificazioni di ieri, Senna è stato ancora il più veloce. Lo vedete inquadrato in questo momento. Senna ha superato il suo compagno di squadra Alain Prost, come al solito si potrebbe dire, questa volta solo per 8 millesimi di secondo. In linea teorica quindi la differenza tra l'inquadrato Senna e il suo grande acerrimo avversario e anche amico fuori dalla pista Alain Prost sembrerebbe minima. Ci auguriamo con questo di poter vivere una volta di più un duello fra questi due grandissimi protagonisti. Dietro a loro, come primi sfidanti, abbiamo le Ferrari di Michele Alboreto e di Gerhard Berger. Nello schieramento di partenza Berger è davanti a Alboreto, ma stamani Alboreto è stato più veloce di Berger. Così come sempre stamani sono tempi ai quali bisogna fare riferimento perché sono quelli che le vetture ottengono in assetto di corsa, quindi particolarmente importanti. Civer è stato il quinto tempo, quindi il più veloce del gruppo degli italiani, passaporto americano, ma tutto sommato Civer dall'età di 5 anni in Italia, quindi capite benissimo che lo si può considerare in toto un pilota italiano. Dietro lui Nannini che è riuscito a precedere Boutsen e quindi in ottava posizione abbiamo Piquet che precede Schneider, un altro dei piloti che come Civer è riuscito finalmente a far funzionare la macchina. A questo punto io però darei la linea a Ezio Zermiani per sapere le ultime notizie della pista.
Allora, le ultime notizie sono queste. Voi avevate visto inquadrato Senna, vi assicuro che è la prima volta che si mette in macchina, praticamente da un quarto d'ora, si è levato il casco da pochissimo, ha fatto un training autogeno, ci hanno detto che in effetti ha praticamente è rimasto completamente assente fino in quel momento al van suo all'interno, non ha parlato con nessuno e per la prima volta quindi non è sceso dalla macchina, cosa che succede per gli altri perché una giornata così calda è abbastanza scomodo stare in macchina con questo caldo. Uno di quelli che è sceso invece, che è tranquillo, lo vediamo molto sereno, è Michele Alboreto. Allora, Michele Alboreto oggi Monza con la Ferrari, è proprio l'ultima gara con la Ferrari a Monza.
Sì, mi dispiace molto chiaramente perché è una cosa un po' particolare per un pilota di Formula 1, specie se italiano, correre con una Ferrari a Monza. Cercherò di fare del mio meglio per fare una buona gara.
Mi pare giusto. Senti che il warm-up di stamattina è andata abbastanza bene, diciamo. C'è stato un problema col motore che tu hai cambiato.
Purtroppo non è andato troppo bene proprio perché appunto si è rotto il motore proprio agli ultimi giri e ho dovuto sostituirlo, quindi non sappiamo ancora come siamo messi.
Ma noi pensavamo una cosa, con motore sostituito, siccome era a fianco l'altro, questo dovrebbe essere bello rinvigorito, era tutto qui il problema.
Ma anche l'altro era nuovo, questo è il problema vero. Abbiamo un po' di problemi in questo momento, speriamo che fili tutto liscio.
Grazie. Vi ridò la linea, vorrei intanto cercare di raggiungere altri piloti, dopo semmai ve la richiedo.
Intanto vedete Gerhard Berger che sta completando lo schieramento di partenza. Vi ricordo che il Gran Premio, 59esimo Gran Premio d'Italia, 12esima delle 16 prove del campionato del mondo edizione 1988, si disputa su 51 giri del percorso stradale monzese di 5.800 metri per 296 km, più il giro di ricognizione, durante il quale Clay Regazzoni, che è qui al mio fianco, ci illustrerà le caratteristiche di questa pista, dove lui si può dire ha esordito, era la sua quarta gara in Formula 1 se ben ricordo, vincendo proprio la Ferrari. Clay.
Sì, Mario, esattamente nel 1970 era il quinto Gran Premio, era una stagione molto positiva per la Ferrari, debuttavamo con il nuovo motore Boxer che poi è stato artefice di molti campionati e era ancora la Monza vecchia senza le chicane, quindi con delle scie enormi si girava oltre 240 di media, però anche oggi malgrado che ci siano tre chicane la media ha già superato in prova i 240, quindi il progresso tecnico è stato importante.
La stabilità dei telai, diciamo.
La stabilità, le gomme, l'aerodinamica, ed è stato un gran premio stupendo perché fino alla fine c'era un grosso duello con Jackie Stewart, Beltoise, Danny Hulme e poi è stato un trionfo, quindi invasione alla pista, quindi un ricordo indimenticabile.
Speriamo che presto si possa commentare una situazione dello stesso tipo. Ci vuole pazienza, ma speriamo di arrivarci a Clay.
Speriamo, sì.
Ecco, vediamo intanto Michele che ha completato la vestizione, e qui vedete la classifica del campionato del mondo con Senna che ha 3 punti di vantaggio su Prost, ma un vantaggio che sembra esiguo, in realtà è molto consistente, perché essendo solo 2 i piloti che stanno disputandosi il titolo mondiale, di fatto quello che conta è soprattutto il numero delle vittorie ottenute quando si andrà allo scarto del punteggio, perché bisognerà utilizzare 11 risultati su 16 gare. A questo punto Senna vanta già 7 vittorie contro il solo 4 di Prost. La gara di oggi quindi diventa importantissima per Prost, perché se riuscirà a vincere e se Senna sarà meno abile o meno fortunato, si riaprirà un po' il discorso, sempre con Senna nettamente favorito, ma con Prost rilanciato. Vi ricordiamo che per concludere il campionato ci sono ancora 4 gare, 2 in Europa e precisamente il 25 di settembre sul circuito dell'Estoril vicino a Lisbona per il Gran Premio del Portogallo, e il 2 ottobre per il Gran Premio di Spagna a Jerez de la Frontera. Intanto vedete, ecco linea Zermiani.
Ecco, volevo farvi notare che purtroppo altra notizia non bella per quanto riguarda la numero 28 Ferrari di Berger, e parte col muletto proprio perché il motore non funzionava bene, quindi adesso forse lo vedete nelle immagini,
sì,
sta parlando con l'ingegnere Ascanelli per quanto riguarda certi tipi di reazioni anche su questo tipo di macchina, lo sta rassicurando. Berger era calmissimo prima, ha dovuto tornare, cambiare la macchina e rimettersi sulla griglia di partenza, quindi piuttosto diciamo pure che c'è parecchio nervosismo in casa Ferrari, proprio per questo lasciamo stare, lasciamo tranquilli e andiamo con altri piloti.
Avete visto intanto che la classifica mondiale vi era stata data sovrimpressione mentre vedevamo l'operazione di sostituzione di tutta la parte riguardante l'impianto elettrico e così via, e vedete lo schieramento di partenza che sta correndo. Vi dicevo, in sovrimpressione vi era stata data la situazione della classifica nel mondiale costruttori. La McLaren è al comando con addirittura 147 punti contro 44 della Ferrari, 29 della Benetton Ford, 17 della Lotus Honda, 11 della March Judd, 10 dell'Aro Megatron, 8 della Williams Judd, 5 della Tyrrell Ford, 3 della Real Ford e 1 della Minardi Ford. Linea ancora a Zermiani.
Eccoci, siamo qui con Eddie Cheever, non diciamo stranamente perché siamo anche contenti, avanzatissimo nella griglia, prestazioni brillantissime in queste giornate di prova. Trovate delle soluzioni particolari per quanto riguarda la sovralimentazione ovviamente?
Sì, no, siamo stati gli ultimi a capire come bisogna far lavorare i motori a turbo compresso in questa valvola. Non abbiamo a disposizione quello che ha la Honda nella Ferrari, però nel nostro piccolo siamo arrivati, ahimè, con molto ritardo, ma oggi voglio levarmi quel sapore di amaro che ho in bocca da ormai 10 gare.
Senti, tu sei l'unico che ci riesce a dare le indicazioni precise per quello che riguarda la condotta di gara e quali sono i leitmotiv di questo tracciato. Il pericolo qui qual è?
Qui il pericolo di sbagliare una scia è molto facile, per cui se non riesci a mantenerti nel primo treno potresti avere dei grossi problemi, per cui non bisogna perdere contatto con chi ti è davanti.
Poi il consumo per quanto riguarda i turbo?
Molto difficile.
E per le gomme, mi sa che qui è un po' critico il discorso.
È critico su una gomma, sulla posteriore sinistra.
Di appoggio?
Di appoggio, basta. Poi
Per il discorso delle curve?
Esatto.
Grazie, sempre così tecnico e così preciso Eddie Cheever, a voi.
Vi stavamo dicendo dello schieramento di partenza. Senna il miglior tempo lo ha ottenuto nelle prove di ieri, con 1:25.974. Aveva fatto ancora meglio nelle prove della mattina non valide per lo schieramento di partenza. La media, come si diceva prima con Clay, è di 242,864 all'ora. Intanto vedete che nonostante i severi controlli qualche spettatore è riuscito ad arrampicarsi sulle piante. Linea Zermiani.
Io proseguo, è un appuntamento fisso quello con Nelson Piquet, ovviamente negli ultimi tempi non c'è diciamo un grande ottimismo, però qui a Monza per esempio il tifo è parecchio per lui, è abbastanza amato da questi tifosi italiani, quindi dovrebbe essere una gara sua.
Questa è una delle gare più difficili per me da 79, guarda, perché qui a Monza è sempre stata molto bella, che adesso non credo che sia una macchina molto competitiva, ma provo a fare il più meglio che posso fare.
sarebbe bello poter essere innaffiati, vorrebbe dire che tu sei arrivato sul podio, ovviamente, creando parecchia simpatia.
Proviamo, va.
Ciao, grazie.
Altre inquadrature del pubblico a conferma, come dicevamo nei nostri precedenti collegamenti con i vari telegiornali, che il pubblico è accorso numerosissimo. C'è stata una perfetta organizzazione per l'afflusso e supponiamo anche per il deflusso, e con il senso unico rotatorio nei viali interni dell'autodromo praticamente si è potuti arrivare alla sistemazione dei posti prescelti con molta maggior facilità. Quindi un miglioramento che prelude alla completa organizzazione del circuito in funzione delle nuove strutture che potranno essere sia provvisorie sia definitive installate al posto degli ormai vetusti box e delle arcaiche sistemazioni attuali della stampa. Linea a Zermiani.
Un altro milanese simpaticissimo, Ivan Capelli, tra l'altro interprete di grandi prestazioni in questi giorni e direi proprio dall'inizio del campionato.
La macchina è migliorata dal Gran Premio di Silverstone. A Spa è stato il Gran Premio dove la macchina veramente andava bene. Oggi possiamo fare, penso, una gara buona. Se mi è possibile volevo salutare una persona a me cara, posso? Voglio salutare mia mamma, che non è venuta perché aveva paura dell'elicottero. Allora è voluta rimanere a casa, spero che stia seguendo perlomeno la partenza.
Il signore ha fatto bene non venire in elicottero, ecco, stia tranquilla a casa e guardi il suo Ivan, va bene così. Senti Ivan, per quanto riguarda la tua personale situazione qui per guidare a Monza, un tracciato che ami evidentemente, con tutto questo pubblico che ti acclama, abbiamo visto che ieri eri attorniato da un sacco di fans.
Beh, logicamente qua è il Gran Premio dove mi ritrovo in mezzo ai miei amici, in mezzo al mio pubblico e ai miei tifosi. Devo dire che ieri purtroppo non sono riuscito a esprimermi perché ho avuto un problema con un pneumatico posteriore. Oggi, come sempre, partirò in una posizione un po' difficile perché ho davanti Nannini, che non è logicamente facile da superare, Patrese, che adesso starà attento dopo quello che gli ho combinato a Spa, quindi ci sarà una bella lotta, immagino.
Grazie Ivan.
A questo punto vorrei dare un saluto anch'io al papà di Capelli, invece, ricordando che Graziano Capelli, papà appunto di Ivan Capelli, è stato per molti anni un nostro carissimo operatore alla sede Rai di Milano. E continuiamo allora con lo schieramento di partenza. Abbiamo visto dunque Senna, Prost, Berger, Alboreto, Civer, Warwick, Piquet, Butzen, Nannini, Patrese, Capelli, Nakajima. Abbiamo poi Gugelmin e Martini con la prima delle due Minardi che sono sensibilmente migliorate durante queste prove del Gran Premio d'Italia, adottando nuove soluzioni soprattutto per quel che riguarda le sospensioni e alcuni particolari della configurazione aerodinamica. Siamo di nuovo sulla macchina di Gerhard Berger mentre si sta discutendo della definitiva sistemazione del muletto con il quale il pilota prenderà il via. Ancora la linea a Zermiani.
Per Carlo Ghinzani, un altro che riscuote parecchio successo, soprattutto in Lombardia ovviamente. Brevissimamente, cosa ci puoi dire per quest'oggi?
Penso di aver mantenuto la promessa fatta a Spa, che qui a Monza avrei fatto per i miei tifosi una bella prestazione in prova, e spero di fare anche una bella gara se sta assieme tutto il biroccio.
Se sta assieme tutto il birroccio, bella come definizione.
Vi ricordo, poco fa avevamo sentito l'intervista con Nelson Piquet, che Nelson Piquet è l'unico pilota che è riuscito a vincere 4 volte sulla pista di Monza, le ultime due in particolare. L'anno scorso Piquet vinse.
And thank you, Steve. At Monza, you can, as usual, almost feel the atmosphere. This is the most historic and the most evocative, without a doubt, circuit of all. Monza, built in the 1920s, it's where all the greats have raced. Nuvolari, Caracciola, Barzi, they've all been here, and of course all the post-war drivers. And today there seems little doubt at the moment that Ayrton Senna is going to enter the Hall of Fame. There he is, towards the bottom of your screens on the left-hand corner. And the Brazilian has been coolly sipping water to top up his liquid level before this race starts. It's extremely hot here, it's over 80 degrees. The cockpit temperatures are going to be enormously high. It's going to be a grueling and demanding race. Senna and Prost, as ever, have got the advantage because they are in the front row of the grid. We had a bit of drama a few minutes ago because when the two Ferraris came out, Alboreto did several formation laps, obviously unhappy with some aspect of his engine, and Gerhard Berger had all the plugs changed on the line, and that's in a situation where both Ferraris have had all their fuel injection equipment and the plenum chambers changed between the half-hour warm-up this morning and going out for their warm-up lap just a few minutes ago. So 2 McLarens, then 2 Ferraris, and notably, interestingly and encouragingly for Britain, row 3, the 2 Arrows of Eddie Cheever, 5th on the grid, and Derek Warwick, 6th on the grid. They have had new turbochargers fitted, which have dramatically improved the performance of their Megatron engines, and we can hope to see them do well in the race.
Yes, certainly their best performance of the season, without any doubt. But of course, one has to remember that those new turbochargers were strictly for qualifying, and they're back to the old and rather larger turbo for the race, because of course they can't run full boost. This is a fuel consumption race for the turbos. The fuel consumption is high here, so they'll be running well off their maximum power. But very encouraging for the Arrows team, and it certainly put Derek Warwick in a good mood.
Alain Prost was second fastest this morning. Ayrton Senna pipped him literally as the clock flicked over to 11 o'clock, which was the finish of the half-hour warm-up period. But Alain Prost, with 4 wins to Ayrton Senna's, he's virtually conceded the World Championship. But if he does well today and Senna does not, Prost could still certainly be in the hunt.
Yes, well, Prost, having certainly conceded the championship as a realistic possibility, has every reason and every bit of motivation to go for a win today. He likes the circuit, he's comfortable here, and I expect a battle between the 2 McLarens. Just hope that they can get off the line first and second so that they don't get separated into a stalemate situation. I think if they get away together, we could have a bit of a race between the 2 McLaren drivers. Senna, of course, having established himself on top, will be very anxious to race Alain Prost and maintain that supremacy.
Gerhard Berger, third on the line, 7/10 of a second slower than Ayrton Senna yesterday. By the way, you were just looking at a very disgruntled Michele Alboreto, who has been going round saying that he has not got the second Williams seat for 1989, and although Frank Williams is not going to make an official announcement until tomorrow, everybody is expecting his second driver to be Riccardo Patrese. So that was Berger. You see now just the 1-minute board before the start of the final parade lap.
Right, and there go the engines. And piece of good news, I've just heard a little bit of a rumour about next year's Grand Prix here at Monza, because the circuit was under a yellow card for its safety and facilities, and were given an ultimatum that they'd have to improve it, and I heard a little whisper that a deal has been done, and so we will have an Italian Grand Prix at Monza next year and in future years, which of course is very good news, because this really is, as Murray said earlier, very much a traditional race, and it's kept its character, and it would be an awful shame to lose it.
It would be, for us traditionalists, frankly, inconceivable for Monza not to have the Italian Grand Prix. Well, it's got it this year, and it's about to go, and as ever, the drag down to the first chicane is going to be all important. Thank you.
There was one car left on the grid there. Was it Boutsen? Or Nannini. It's one of the Belgians. It's Alessandro Nannini. So the problem with his car, it looks like they can't start the engine. And of course, if he gets away now, they're changing. I can see them taking plugs out. But if he does get away, he will have to start from the back of the grid. He is not allowed to retake up his position with the field. He has to just stay at the back.
And that's tragic for Nannini, because he was not only second fastest 3.5-litre car, they're pushing his car away, second in practice in the 3.5-litre category, but he was fastest this morning, and it looks to me as though he's going to be trying to start from the pit lane, because his car is now being dragged backwards. As you look down on this absolutely magnificent course, the trees of what was the Royal Park of Monza all around the circuit, and they're going up now, as you can see from the circuit diagram, towards the two Lesmo bends, which they take at about 155 miles an hour. Almost inconceivable, even when you see them in action, but that is the truth. They go then down towards the Seraglio. You can see the figure 7 there. That shows that's the 7th camera position. And the Seraglio is the slight left-hand bend at the edge of the red strip. Now we're on towards the Vialoni and the Ascari chicane, which is where the number 9 is. At the point they are now, in the race they will be doing about 180 miles an hour. Now you're looking down on the Ascari chicane. You can see what the original line of the circuit was. It was straight across that grass patch, but they've had to put in 3 chicanes at Monza over the years to slow the speeds down.
Yes, and that particular chicane, the Ascari chicane, doesn't really slow them down very much. It's a 4th gear corner, and at something like 120 miles an hour, 130 miles an hour. So it's a pretty quick chicane. And now down to the Parabolica to complete the lap. You see the big runoff area beyond the Parabolica. That was, I think, the first sand trap in Grand Prix racing, and what a great success it's been, safety-wise. It's almost impossible for a car there to reach that barrier. So the 2 McLarens leading the field onto the grid. Senna, of course, will bring them in as slowly as possible so that he doesn't have to sit still with his water temperature and clutch temperature going up as the clutch just drags on the flywheel. And you don't want to sit in gear too long with these cars because if the clutch overheats, you can get slippage as you leave the line. And of course, remember that they need to move to keep cool because the radiators, there are no fans in racing cars, they need movement through the air, so the water temperature rises steadily as they sit down.
And there is Alessandro Nannini starting from the pit lane with an anxious Peter Collins in the background, the engine cover off his Ford engine in the Benetton, and a bitterly disappointed Alessandro sitting in the cockpit. But on the start line at the front on the right-hand side, pole position Ayrton Senna, then Alain Prost. It is a 51-lap race. They did 151 miles an hour race average for the pole speed in the practice, Ayrton Senna, and they're an unduly long time on the grid. I'm not at all happy about this. There's the man with the green flag, and it's go very shortly. To the first chicane. Senna gets through. It's Senna leading, Prost in 2nd place. Then the 2 Ferraris, and behind it's Chiva, then it's Boutsen. Piquet has come up well. It looks to me as though they're all getting through the chicane well, and indeed they have.
And Senna made a pretty slow start, and where he found that extra turn of speed from, he just seemed to power up alongside Prost, having been slower away, and had the inside line for the corner and got in front. The rest of the field all managed to scramble through. It's always a bit fraught, that first chicane at Monza, because the track sort of funnels down, it narrows in the braking area. But these are responsible men who know it's a long race, and they don't mind losing an odd place at this stage. They know they can make it up again. Now Prost looks almost as if he's in some sort of trouble.
Holding up Berger in 3rd position and giving Ayrton Senna the opportunity to pull away.
Because I found it strange the way Senna went past him off the line, Prost having made the better start, and I think Prost may have an engine problem straight away.
Yes, Prost made several parade laps before the start of the race, which indicated to me that he was not happy and was coming into the pits to have something checked. He's had a vibration problem all through practice, and Nannini gets away. Away as the leaders exit the Parabolica to complete their first lap. Senna has got an enormous lead. Prost is 2nd, Berger is 3rd, Alboreto is 4th, Chiva is 5th, Boutsen is 6th, and Nelson Piquet is punching past Riccardo Patrese into 7th place. And if they leave much sand on the corner there, that will cause grip problems for the cars behind. But once again, as you look at Nannini, who is a lap already behind Ayrton Senna, almost. Prost in second place, Berger third, Alboreto in fourth position, and Alessandro Nannini has got a major problem. He's just got to hope that people in front of him have mechanical trouble, because he is way, way down. Tragic for him. He's lost a lap right at the beginning of the race, and that's the man who was the fastest 3.5-litre engine driver in the warm-up this morning. So they are down into the Ascari bends now, they being Senna, and Senna has already got over 2 seconds lead over Alain Prost as they come down to the Parabolica on the second lap. We'll have to stop talking as they go past us at the start and finish point. We're in a concrete grandstand with a concrete roof, and the noise is plain unbelievable.
Yes, I don't know what happened to Prost on the first lap, because he seems to have got it together, and the gap's not really increasing now.
So the gap now is 3.5 seconds as they blast past on the second lap. With this cacophony of noise, there is Nannini. He's now been lapped with Ayrton Senna on his third lap. Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton has been lapped. You can see 3.4 seconds gap between Senna and Prost. Berger and Alboreto just behind Prost in their Ferraris. Eddie Cheever in the Arrows Megatron in 5th position. He started 5th on the grid. He was 5th fastest this morning. Thierry Boutsen is holding the flag for the Benetton Ford team in 6th place. And in 7th place behind Boutsen, it is Piquet, then Riccardo Patrese 8th. Capelli is 9th, Derek Warwick is 10th, and he's made several places. Then Gugelmin is behind him, followed by Martini, Nakajima, Schneider and Ginzani. And here is the Parabolica approach. Senna, Nannini behind him has been lapped, don't forget. So the cool, calm and collected Brazilian is on his way, and out of the race already goes Nicola Larini in the Osella. That's on the third lap. Larini is out. Now we're looking down on Senna going into the Rettifilo, the left-right new chicane, which leads up to the Roja. That is Eddie Cheever going through. He is in 5th position. And behind Cheever now, Boutsen is starting to catch Eddie Cheever. So we are on lap 4 in this 51-lap race with Ayrton Senna 3.3 seconds ahead of Prost, you see in the background. But Berger is closing on Prost. This race is terribly, terribly important to Ferrari. They announced a team reconstruction yesterday. Marco Piccinini, the team manager of the past, is leaving and being replaced by a triumvirate who are splitting up his responsibility. And now you see Senna, Nannini, who has been lapped. Prost is 2nd, Berger is right behind him in 3rd place. That is Alboreto in 4th place. Coming towards us, Cheever is 5th. Being caught by Boutsen in 6th place. Riccardo Patrese is 7th. Nelson Piquet is 8th. Capelli is 9th. Warwick is 10th. Gugelmin is 11th. And it's Pierluigi Martini going through in 12th position as Alex Caffey there goes into the Ascari bends. End of lap 4. Here's Senna. Now, Berger is less than half a second behind Prost, who is in 2nd place.
And now that they've settled down, Prost is in fact not just holding Senna, he has marginally reduced the gap, and I think probably the the start was explained by the fact that Senna, I suspect, used full boost for the first 2 laps, or the first lap of the race, to get himself into the lead and to get a gap, and has then cut back to what one would call his normal race setting of the engine. Prost, I think, probably started on that, but as they settle down, Prost is certainly holding Senna and taking Berger along with him, so it looks as if we've got a race on our hands.
And out of the race goes Luis Sala. That's the Spanish driver in the Minardi, Luis Sala, and that is on lap 5, so Larini is out, Sala is out, and the car being pushed away. And what a pity, you can see that Nannini is holding on to Senna, and the gap now between Senna and Prost is down to 2.9 seconds. Prost is catching Senna. There is the leader. But Sala has been pushed and rejoined. I can tell you that the Spaniard is back in the race, and there's a spin. That was the problem. Luis Sala spinning off. And it was miraculous that he didn't at least damage the rear wing. So now Alain Prost, with the bits between his teeth, is going for it. He has reduced the lead of Ayrton Senna from 3.3 seconds to 2.9 seconds. But he's got to catch and get past Nannini, who will, I hope, move over and let the Frenchman through. Berger is holding on to the second McLaren. Here is the leader, Ayrton Senna, with 9 Grand Prix victories. There goes 9 pole positions. There goes Nannini. Now, Prost, Berger, 4th position. Alboreto is dropping back again. Berger is the only man who's showing a real challenge to the McLarens. There's Eddie Cheever, 5th. Boutsen still in 6th position. Riccardo Patrese in the 2nd normally aspirated car. Then Piquet, Capelli, Derek Warwick holding on. Gugelmin, and they pour through round the Ascari bend. That's the old banked circuit, the bridge over the track. And Senna now completes his 6th lap. Into the Rettifilio, and again Prost has taken 0.3 of a second out of Senna's lead. Prost is now consistently reducing Ayrton Senna's lead by 0.3 of a second per lap. It's down to 2.6 seconds. Race order with Alain Prost, the fastest lap, 1 minute 31.016, and as you see, that's 142.5 miles an hour, and that compares with the lap record here at Monza, which is held by Senna, 149 miles an hour. So they're quite dramatically slower than last year's cars, which had 4-bar boost and more fuel. Nannini, who's been lapped. Now they go into the Ascari bends in 4th gear, change down to 3rd, accelerate out, down to the Parabolica, up to 6th gear, about 190 miles an hour. And I'll give you the gap. Again, it was 2.9 seconds, then 2.6. Berger is holding on. Hardly anything in it between Prost and Berger, battling for 2nd position, as we see Eddie Cheever easing away from Boutsen's Benetton. Senna has crossed the line, and now Prost does 2.4 seconds. 2.4 seconds. So this time it's 0.2 of a second that Prost has taken out of Senna's lead, and now he's right up with Nannini, who has been lapped due to his late start. And Prost has got to get past Nannini. Ayrton Senna, meantime, has got a clear track in front of him.
Yes, Prost will certainly be hoping to dispense with Nannini after the 2 Lesmos going into the Ascari chicane. And there we have a new fastest lap for Gerhard Berger. So Berger and Prost by no means letting Senna get away. In fact, they are catching him slightly. And it'll be very important for the 2 turbo drivers, Prost and Berger, to get past Nannini as quickly as possible and get a clear road to run at Senna.
And now is their opportunity, because as they come down to the parabolica, I'm expecting to see Prost dart out from behind. Yes, and he has. He is past Nannini. Now he's got a clear track and he can go for it. The gap was 2.6 seconds. Prost is past the lap to Nannini. Berger will be about to do the same thing. And Ayrton Senna is coming up to the line now. And Alain Prost goes across the line now. And the gap has increased 3.2 seconds. And that is undoubtedly because Alessandro Nannini was holding up Alain Prost, whereas Senna was getting away.
Yes, and also Senna put up a new fastest lap for the race at the same time. Senna was able to go quicker, but of course all the cars are getting quicker now as the fuel load comes down.
First of all, Prost made the fastest lap, 1 minute 31.001. Then Berger, 1 minute 30.9. Then Senna, 1 minute 30.7. And I suspect that this lap it will be Prost again, although Senna, probably from his pits to car radio, will know that Prost is up into second place and will know that he's got to make a move to try and maintain the gap into the parabolica, first, second and third, and how magnificently the Ferrari of Gerhard Berger there is hanging on. Pierluigi Martini has just sprinted out of the pits. That's in the second Minardi car. Here comes Senna over the line, and here comes Prost. 3.3 seconds, exactly the same gap as before. Race order on this, the 10th lap in this 51-lap race, as you look at Ayrton Senna on his way to the Roggia and the Lesmo Benz, leading by 3.3 seconds from Prost. Berger is 0.8 of a second behind Prost, third. Then Alboreto, fourth. Chiva, fifth. Boutsen, sixth. Patrese, seventh. Piquet, eighth. Capelli, ninth. Derek Warwick in 10th position, Gugelmin is 11th, and Bert Schneider in the Zach Speed is 12th. Senna, Lesmo, 150 miles an hour. Now the Seraglio. And Senna, who is no slouch at getting past people, is coming up to the Minardi now. I've little doubt that he'll sail straight past him, but it's conceivable that he'll be held up momentarily, in which case Alain Prost will have the chance to get through, or get closer rather. Now there goes Senna, past the Minardi, takes a wide line into the parabolica, coming through to complete his 10th lap. Already this race is almost 1/5 distance completed. And the gap on the previous lap, and this is going to be the critical one that will tell us, was 3.3 seconds. And as Prost goes across the line, the gap is 3.2. So it's only a 10th of a second, I know, but Prost is lapping faster.
Yes, the two McLarens are getting quicker each lap now as the fuel load goes down. And this is now new fastest lap for Alain Prost, 1:30.5. We can rest assured there are plenty of more fastest laps to come as Prost laps the Minardi without too much loss of time, because really the two McLarens and also Berger's Ferrari appear to be very evenly matched.
And we must not forget that although no car should run out of fuel in this race, fuel is still critical, because you've got to get the balance between getting your fuel right and getting the power as great as possible, commensurate with that amount of fuel. And now you can see that Prost can see Ayrton Senna in front of him. He knows what the target is. This is lap 11. The gap was 3.23 seconds, and Berger is still just about 1 second behind Prost. And the gap between Ayrton Senna in the lead and Berger, who is in third position, is about 4 seconds. And now Senna has speeded up. Senna has replied to Prost's challenge with another fastest lap, 1 minute 30.4. Prost is lapping at 1 minute 31.
And once again, Prost has lost more time in lapping the slower car than Senna did. And it's the same story it's really been throughout the season. Senna seems to be able to deal with the traffic much more effectively than Alain Prost.
And that's one of the Lotuses off. It's Piquet, Nelson Piquet, out of the race. Well, and Piquet was in 7th position. That's the man who won the Italian Grand Prix in 1980, 83, 86, and last year, and he is out. So we know now that Lotus next year have lost the Honda engine and that they're going to have Judd engines. We know that Piquet is still with them in 1989, but he'll be hoping to do better than he has here as Ayrton Senna comes round shortly to complete his 12th lap. He had a lead of 3.8 seconds previously, and it looks to me as though he is very much in command.
And this replay, we see Piquet just spinning off. And when you said that he'll be hoping to do better next time, the worrying thing for me is that I'm not sure that he cares. Because that's not the driving, it's just an elementary mistake without pressure of a man who cares.
As you can see, Alain Prost is now again speeding up. It's a pity that Prost had that fluffed start, because these two, as James said, are incredibly evenly matched. 1 minute 30.3 was Senna's last lap, and Prost has just gone round in 1 minute 30.2, but as a result of being able to break away on that first lap, Senna is still leading by 3.7 seconds. Berger is dropping back now. He is nearly 2 seconds behind Prost in 3rd position, 4 seconds ahead of Michele Alboreto, 4th. And he is 9 seconds ahead of Chiva, 5th, who is 1 second ahead of Boutsen, 6th. Then it's Patrese 7th, Capelli 8th, Warwick 9th, Gugelmin 10th, Nakajima in 11th place, Schneider 12th, and Julian Bailey is 22nd. Julian Bailey, who qualified for the Italian Grand Prix, his teammate Jonathan Palmer failed to do so, and Bailey is still running strongly, albeit at the rear of the field, as Senna goes through to complete another lap, 3.8 seconds ahead of Prost. The gap is virtually identical.
Well, interesting on our printout of lap times, Senna and Prost are sufficiently evenly matched. They both had a clear lap, and they were 4 thousandths of a second apart. Prost, he'd be happy to know, was 4 thousandths of a second quicker than Senna, so they are mighty even.
As you look at Chiva and Boutsen, who are respectively 5th and 6th, there is Thierry Boutsen, who is the leading driver of a 3.5-litre engined car. And whilst none of us have any doubts about the reliability of the McLaren-Honda combination and the competence of Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, we do sadly have doubts about the ability of the 2 Ferraris behind them to finish. Berger is going well, but he's dropping back, and I suspect that, as ever, he is having to keep an eye on his fuel gauge and run his race speed according to that.
Yes, as is, I'm sure, Derek Warwick, who had a bit of a fluff start, made some places early on, got himself between the 2 marchers of Capelli and Gugelmin, but there he really seems to have got stuck and is not really making any progress at the moment. And that for sure is to do with his the fact that he's having to cut back on power to save fuel. And once again, the 2 McLarens go past us, this time separated by a huge margin of 40 thousandths of a second. Or 400ths, whichever you prefer. So 3.8 seconds, the gap between the 2 McLarens. And it's really quite tantalising, this battle, because they're almost tied together, except that gap is just too big to make a real race of it at the moment.
Yes, one of the team people who had better be nameless said to me the other day it would be nice if the McLaren slowed up and made a race of it, which is to misjudge the situation. There is nothing that the entire McLaren team, from Ron Dennis down to all the mechanics that work so hard on the cars to maintain them so well, want more than to create a record by winning 16 Grand Prix in a 16 Grand Prix year, and for Ayrton Senna to get a perfect World Championship score of 99 points from 11 wins, because you only count the top 11 scores from 16 if you finish in 16 races and score in them, which is very unlikely. But now you see Capelli challenging Riccardo Patrese, who is in 7th place. Ivan Capelli in the mark.
And as usual, we have a little bit of a race going on amongst the Atmo cars. Boutsen goes through as the leading now as the leading Atmo, but not very far behind is the battle between Capelli and Patrese, with Derek Warwick lurking right behind them, ready to pick up any places that they give away.
And Prost is definitely going faster. We've just had the first lap at under 1 minute 30 seconds. Only 1/10, admittedly, but Prost has gone round in 1 minute 29.9, 3/10 of a second faster than Senna. We'll tell you now, once they come through, whether he's maintaining that, but there is Berger in 3rd place, now 4 seconds behind Prost as he goes into the left-hander before the Ascari bend. Here is Alboreto in 4th position, and Thierry Boutsen up behind him. So where is Eddie Cheever? There is Eddie Cheever. No, it was Nannini. Nannini had been, sorry, there is Boutsen. Nannini, who had been lapped. So Thierry Boutsen still in that 6th position. Here is Riccardo Patrese, 7th, with Derek Warwick 8th, crawling all over him, and Capelli.
Yes, and Warwick has passed Capelli, so Derek Warwick has moved up a place. He's now got his sights on Riccardo Patrese, but he's also got to cover his rear very carefully, because Capelli is there waiting for any sort of mistake.
And Nakajima has gone into the pits. Satoru Nakajima, the Japanese driver of the Lotus Honda, has gone into the pits as you look at this terrific scrap between Riccardo Patrese, Derek Warwick and Ivan Capelli, going up to the Rettifilo. And Derek Warwick's got really forcing on now in 8th position, closing up on Patrese, who is 7th. There is Nakajima in the inset, in the top left picture of your screen, in the pits, and we're watching Derek Warwick there, ahead of Ivan Capelli. So it's a turbocharged car, the Arrows Megatron sandwich between the 2 Judd-powered cars, the Williams of Riccardo Patrese and the March of Ivan Capelli. And incidentally, Robin Hurd himself, the boss of March, is here for the Italian Grand Prix, and he's seeing Ivan Capelli going extremely well. Goujouen is just 1 place behind.
And Prost is continuing to inch closer to Ayrton Senna. The gap now down to 2.8 seconds.
And René Arnoux is about to be caught, and Arnoux is a hard man to get past. Patrese going into the Parabolica, followed by Warwick, followed by Capelli, and the race order is still Senna, Prost, Berger, Alboreto, Cheever, Boutsen in 6th position. Then this battle for 7th, 8th and 9th, which Riccardo Patrese leads. Derek Warwick 2nd, that's to say he is in 8th position, ahead of the turquoise-coloured March of Ivan Capelli, and there is less than a second as they go across the line between those 3 cars. And as they go up towards the Roger bends, they're doing about 175 miles an hour now. This is the second chicane that they're approaching, and Derek Warwick is looking for a way past.
Yes, Derek Warwick will be looking to get really close to Patrese through the two Lesmos, which they're just turning into now. But he lost a bit of ground out of the chicane, so he won't be able to mount his challenge into the Ascari chicane. And Warwick, who had been edging closer and closer, had a small... Warwick now coming under attack from Capelli.
Yes, you can see it. Capelli's pulling out and taking, or is he? No, he's not. Derek Warwick moves across to take his line from the parabolica. It's still Patrese 7th, Warwick 8th, Capelli 9th, and Warwick ought to have an advantage here. He's in a turbocharged car. He can push a little more boost through if he feels inclined to do it with that boost knob on the left-hand side of the dashboard. And Julian Bailey has now passed Yannick Dalmas and is up into 19th place. Race order, Senna 3.8 seconds ahead of Prost and lapping now quicker. He lapped a second faster than Prost in the previous lap. Berger is still 3rd, but 7 seconds behind Prost now. Alboreto is still 4th. Chiva is 5th. And there is the battle behind Boutsen, who is 6th for 7th, 8th, 9th. And Warwick going again, looking for a way past Riccardo Patrese.
And this battle between the two McLarens, following very much the pattern that we've seen all year, in that when Prost is behind and they're fairly evenly matched, he inches closer to Senna, and then suddenly, for some reason, he loses the whole lot in one lap. It took him about 8 laps to get from nearly 4 seconds down to 2.7 seconds, and then in one lap he lost it. The gap now 3.9.
And Capelli now definitely going through, with Riccardo Patrese still 7th, but again the heroic Derek Warwick hangs on, and Senna 1 minute 29.9, a new fastest lap. Warwick still there in 8th position as they come out of the parabolica down to the fast straight and the approach to the Rettifiglio again. And incidentally, two men in particular, Nigel Mansell and Martin Brundle, will be interested in knowing where Jean-Louis Schlesser is in their Williams Red 5. And the answer he is in 16th place. Spun off and lightly damaged the car in practice yesterday. And there in the pits is Yannick Dalmas, who you heard me say earlier on had been passed by Julian Bailey. And it's still Senna, Prost, Berger, Alboreto, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, Chiva 5th, Boutsen 6th. Here's the battle for 7th. Patrese, Warwick, Capelli. Behind Capelli is Maurizio Gugelmin, but he's 13 seconds behind. And there are the numbers that give you the order on lap 19. 12 is Senna, 11 is Prost, 28 is Berger, 27 is Alboreto, 18 is Chiva. Number 20 is Thierry Boutsen, and number 6 is Riccardo Patrese. And here is Riccardo Patrese. At 130 miles an hour here. Now up into 5th gear and build up to nearly 180.
And Senna was lapping back after. Lapping then, lost a little bit of time. Prost has got a bit closer again. But, of course, Prost still has the traffic to deal with.
Yes, and I think the Ferraris have given up. Not totally, but they've given up any chance they would have had of really challenging the McLarens. Berger is now 10 seconds behind Prost and 5 seconds ahead of Alboreto. They're 3rd and 4th.
Yes, I think they probably started using a little bit more fuel than they could average for the whole race in an attempt to stay with the McLarens, and they've now, their computer printout will be showing that they're on the deficit side of the correct fuel consumption, so I think they've had to back off power and settle for trying to make 3rd and 4th places.
You just caught a glimpse of Schlesser there as Berger goes through in 3rd position. Senna is as ever, carving his way through the field, which Prost is doing now. Prost has just got ahead of Ginzani in the Zach speed. There is Streff in the AGS, and the gap, as you see, between first and second is 3.1 seconds. Prost goes over the line. I'll tell you whether there is any change to that. Well, it's increased. It's 4.5 seconds now, and that is because, as ever, Senna seems to be coping with the traffic better than Prost.
Very much so. It's been really the story of this season. Certainly in racing terms, it's been the most significant difference between the two McLaren drivers. When they get to the race, they're pretty evenly matched, but when they get into traffic, Senna seems able to find a way through with much less loss of time than Alain Prost. Also, Senna has dominated qualifying, and that's been very important in the run of things. And here's this wonderful battle going on, and Derek Warwick has got in front. So Warwick past Patrese, and now with Boutsen to chase. But I don't think this battle is over yet.
And there's only 5 seconds between Thierry Boutsen in the Benetton in 6th place and the man you're looking at in the lead of these three, Derek Warwick. And Derek, for the first time for several Grand Prix, is really fit. In Belgium, he was suffering from the after effects of some virus complaint, and he was very much below par. Not so much below par as Nigel Mansell currently is, for much the same sort of reason. But now Derek says he feels extremely well, and Capelli is going for Patrese as well. But Patrese will have none of it, and Capelli goes around the other side, or tries to. He's got the inside line.
And a very important personal battle between the two Italian drivers. Patrese always pretty uncompromising when it comes to defending his position. And Capelli, one of the young pretenders for the top Italian, the title of leading Italian Grand Prix driver, will be very keen to get past Patrese and put one over him.
There goes Patrese over the line. You can see the gap that Derek Warwick has generated between himself and Riccardo Patrese, who is now 8th. By the way, Bailey has been relegated by Alessandro Nannini, who started so late and is now in 20th position. Bailey, that is. And Rene Arnoux's also been passed by Nannini. So the Italian is really motoring. In fact, at 1 minute 31.8, he is actually the 5th fastest man on the circuit, including all the turbo cars, and he is faster than his own teammate. That is Nannini. There is Nannini, and he has got ahead of him now the Lola of Philippe Alliot. There is Alliot.
Well, once again, the two McLarens are out of the traffic for the moment, and Prost is doing his inching back towards Senna trick. But he's further away now than he was before they hit the traffic. 4.4 seconds the gap between the two McLarens.
Well, you're watching a virtuoso drive, or you were, by Alessandro Nannini as Berger goes through to lap Philippe Streff. We are almost on the half-distance lap. This is lap 24 out of 51, with Senna leading Prost by 4.4 seconds. Third is Berger, 12 seconds behind Prost, and 6 seconds ahead of Alboreto fourth. Chiva is still 5th. Boutsen is still in 6th position, and he is 4 seconds ahead of Warwick. Riccardo Patrese then is in 8th position, with Capelli 9th, Gujum in 10th. And we've just had a message that Nelson Piquet said he had had no clutch since the beginning of the race, and that was what caused his spin.
Which is not quite right, because no clutch cannot cause a spin. and really a driver of his experience, knowing he had no clutch, had no reason to get himself in a tangle like that.
Alain Prost motoring on, that is Senna, gap 4.4 seconds. And again, Prost with a clear circuit is lapping faster than Senna. Only 0.2 of a second, as James has said several times. These two are perfectly evenly matched, but Senna takes advantage of the traffic better, and he is able to maintain that gap. So at half distance almost, Ayrton Senna looks as though he is commandingly on his way to yet another Grand Prix win. That would make it 14 in his career, and this is his 74th Grand Prix. There he goes. An extremely intense man whose racing matters more to him, I think, than to anybody else these days. His application is quite awe-inspiring, and you can see then the gap now between Prost in second position and Berger in third place at some 14 seconds means to say that the whole track between the Parabolica and the Ascari bends, as we look back, was absolutely clear. 3.9 seconds, the gap.
And a new fastest lap for Alain Prost in pursuit. Oh, that was all a bit exciting. And so once again, he inches a couple of tenths closer to Ayrton Senna. And the gap now 4.1 seconds.
Just about 3 miles an hour slower, than the lap record which was put up by Ayrton Senna in the Lotus Honda last year, 149.5 miles an hour. You'll remember that Senna was having a tremendous battle, and there, going through the Ferrari, ahead of the Williams, with Alessandro Nannini challenging, and he's ready. That's Schlesser in front of Nannini, and Streff in front of both of them, and Berger has now lapped them. So here's a mixture of people who are on their 26th and 25th laps. Streff is on his 25th. There's Berger on his 26th in third position in the Ferrari. The Ferrari seem at the moment to have their reliability problem licked, and by the way, John Barnard, their designer, is here, but they certainly have not got the fuel consumption problem licked.
And this time Alain Prost, with another fastest lap, took nearly a second out of Senna's lead. The gap now down to 3.2 seconds. Alain Prost does appear very dependent on having a clear track in front of him.
And the gap just over 3 seconds as you look at Jean-Louis Schlesser, allegedly the hard man of racing. He's leading the World Sports Car Championship in the Sauber Mercedes, and it's ironic that Martin Brundle, who is second in the World Sports Car Championship as the Jaguar driver, was asked not to drive here in the fear that it might affect his Sports Car World Championship chances, and his place was taken, ironically, by Jean-Louis Schlesser, the man who is leading Brundle in the Sports Car Championship. But now on lap 27, over half distance, Senna still very much in command, lead of just over 3 seconds, although Prost is lapping faster. Here is the fourth place man, Alboreto. And as you watch Alessandro Nannini, I'll tell you that he's just gone round in 1 minute 33.3, which actually makes him the 5th fastest man on the circuit, slower only in terms of lap times than Senna, Prost, Berger and Alboreto, all of whom are in turbocharged cars, and that is Andrea De Cesaris in the pits in the German Real.
Ayrton Senna has responded to Alain Prost's challenge, and there's one of the Zaxby's just pulling up on the side of the circuit, and it appears to be Genzani, so it looks as if he's out of the race. So Senna speeded up, but as you see on the captain, not enough, because Alain Prost put in yet another fastest lap, and it took another 0.4 of a second, or half a second off Senna. The gap now 2.7 seconds, so Prost is getting closer.
I think poor Pier Carlo Genzani must have a large bad luck charm in his pocket permanently. He so seldom finishes, but that's Schneider in front of Prost.
Yes, and didn't Schneider's car look evil under braking? It was really wandering about in the braking area there. And Prost now set up, he should be able to pass Schneider without too much loss of time. And still getting closer. Another couple of tenths of a second nearer Ayrton Senna. The gap now 2.4 seconds.
Now, this is turning into a truly great Italian Grand Prix. I remind you that the gap was 4.3 seconds at one time, and Alain Prost, under no illusions at all about the fact that his mantle is likely to be taken from him by, if you like, the young pretender Ayrton Senna, is really going for it. Down is coming the lap time, down is coming the gap. The two McLarens are remorselessly and seemingly unchallenged in their lead, but what a wonderful fight there is between the Brazilian, who's yet to win a World Championship, and Alain Prost in second place. And Prost, of course, the world champion of 1985 and 1986. There he is. Smooth, calm, very reliable. A real thinking driver, but then so is Ayrton Senna. And look! As Prost goes, the gap is down to about just under 2.4 seconds. At that point, Senna exits the parabolica, Prost hard after him. They're coming through to complete the lap. Senna crosses the line. Prost crosses the line. The gap is still 2.6 seconds. And the lap time of Ayrton Senna was 0.2 of a second faster than the man you're looking at, Alain Prost. So once again, Senna has got the message. Once again, Senna has speeded up just that vital amount. 1:29.569. New fastest lap for Ayrton Senna. We are now on lap 30. And all the time, the telemetry equipment on the McLarens is sending messages back from the Honda engine by radio to the Honda Japanese technicians in the pits, who are monitoring fuel consumption and every aspect of engine performance. There are something like 20 Honda technicians in the pit lane watching the performance of these two cars.
And the battle of the Italians that we were referring to just a few laps ago has now been taken over by Capelli. Ivan Capelli has passed Riccardo Patrese. And is now some 5 seconds behind Derek Warwick. And Warwick is now challenging Thierry Boutsen.
I think Prost is in trouble. His engine is sounding very flat and rough as he goes past me at the completion of the 30th lap. The gap was 2.9 seconds. It looks all right at the moment as he goes through the Rettifilo. But Derek Warwick, as you watch the leaders, is right up now behind Thierry Boutsen, who is in 6th place. Warwick, who is charged past from 9th to 8th, from 8th to 7th, is challenging for 6th place. There's much gesticulation here in the pits area. I'm looking down towards the parabolica. And Nannini, who has been lapped, is now right up with Alboreto, who is in 4th place. Nannini, really, 1 minute 30.7. He is now faster than everybody except Senna and Prost. And you're looking still at a rather agitated Andrea De Cesaris in the Ford Cosworth powered German Real. And Prost is missing. Well, he's well back.
Yes, his engine sounded very rough indeed. And Derek Warwick is ahead of Thierry Boutsen. So Derek Warwick has got past and is now moved up into the points.
And could very rapidly be in 5th place. I'm watching Prost. Prost is very definitely in trouble. Very definitely in trouble. His engine is sounding as flat as a pancake, and the gap now is 9 seconds. Senna is on his way. He's going to have another win if he just keeps going the way he is. And Prost is going to be caught and passed by Berger. We're going to have a Ferrari in 2nd place, and then we're going to really see some action in the enormous grandstand in which I'm standing at the moment, because I'm sure that half Italy, which seems to be in here with me, will erupt when they see Berger come through in 2nd place and Alboreto in 3rd. And you can even see, looking at your television monitor there, that Alain Prost is going very much slower. He's just gone round in 1 minute 36.6 seconds. That is 6 seconds slower than Senna. And Senna will soon be able to wind down the boost and cruise home to yet another victory.
And Derek Warwick is still making progress. He's now chasing his teammate Eddie Cheever. He's only 3.5 seconds behind him.
Race order: Senna leading, Prost 2nd. Berger 14 seconds behind Prost, but carving into the gap. You saw the Ferrari come flying out of the Ascari bend as you look at number 11, Alain Prost. Now, I told you that the gap was just 15 seconds between Prost, that you're looking at now, and Berger. Prost is about to go over the line, and I think Berger might even take 2nd place from him on this or the next lap, because the gap is down to, where is Berger? 12 seconds. I tell you, there's something odd about this. Alain Prost had a big vibration problem with his car all through practice. He was complaining about it. And I was talking to one of the top McLaren men yesterday, and he said, we haven't really traced it. There are the McLaren mechanics obviously waiting to change tyres, but they thought it was a rear-end transmission problem which would be overcome on Prost's car when they changed the rear end, the transmission. That clearly hasn't happened. Prost, as I said earlier on, was in and out of the pits before the race began, prior to on the warm-up period. But I'm sure we are soon going to see Gerhard Berger, Ferrari, in 2nd place. Michele Alboreto up into 3rd place. That is Berger, identifiable by those yellow flashes on the front aerofoil and the big rear wing. And Senna, actually, Berger is now lapping faster than Senna is. And he's lapping faster because he can sense the chance of getting 2nd place from Alain Prost. Prost is lapping now slower than anybody else in the race. He's just got over the line. Now you see Gerhard Berger in the background.
Yes, although Prost's engine sounds very rough indeed, and clearly it's well down on power just from the lap time. If maybe it's just a broken exhaust, which of course with the turbo engine means you won't be getting any boost from the turbo. If it's only that, there's no reason why he can't soldier on to the finish, albeit rather slowly. And with the huge lead he built up on 6th place, for example, he still could score a point. Although, of course, that makes it fairly irrelevant for him because he'll be dropping points at the end of the season anyway. Remember, it's only the best 11 races out of 16 that count.
Meantime, our Italian producer, very understandably, is concentrating on number 28, Gerhard Berger, and savouring the thrill of showing the picture to Italy and the rest of the world of the Ferrari moving up from 3rd to 2nd place, and you're going to see it very shortly. Race order then on this, the 34th lap. Senna leading Prost, but not for very much longer, with Berger in 3rd place, Alboreto in 4th, Cheever 5th, Warwick 6th, Boutsen in 7th place, Capelli is 8th, Patrese is 9th, Gugelmin 10th, Nannini 11th. Remember, he started a lap behind everybody else. Schlesser is 12th, and watch Berger and Prost. There's going to be a change for 2nd place. The crowd is on its feet. Prost goes into the Rettifilio.
Yes, interestingly, going down the order then, in 12th place, Jean-Louis Schlesser. He was having a tremendous ding-dong battle with his countryman Philip Streff as Berger gets inevitably closer. Prost clearly well down on power. And certainly it's given the crowd something to stand up for. Everybody came to their feet as these two cars went past the main grandstand, because the Ferrari passing a McLaren has been a pretty rare sight this season, but now we're getting it. So, Gerhard Berger moves into 2nd place. No real hope of catching Senna, who is now being able to just relax and control the race absolutely as he likes.
Here's Berger, there's Prost. Gerhard Berger, 2nd in Brazil, 2nd in Monaco, 3rd in Mexico, 3rd in Germany, 4th in France and Hungary, 3rd in the World Championship with 28 points to Senna's 75 and Prost 72. That's the margin between the McLarens and the Ferrari. But if Berger can keep it going, he's going to be a happy man, although a bit dejected. There, can you hear that noise in the background? The crowd have seen that Berger has got ahead of Alain Prost, and into the pits comes Alain Prost at the end of his 35th lap. Now, is it to retire? The mechanics leap on the McLaren. There's no evidence of tyres and wheels being changed.
Yes, I don't think they've really got time to change the engine, which would seem to be the proper cure.
Touché. Well, up comes the... Well, this is a very serious problem, because up comes the complete body. The chassis of the car is separate from the body panel. Some cars, the chassis itself forms the body. The McLaren is not one of them. But if this is an engine failure, as opposed to an ancillaries failure, like electrical problems, I'm just racking my memory and trying to think whether there has been a Honda engine problem. I seem to remember Nakajima having an engine problem in one of the races. Anyway, it's very, very rare.
It's certainly the first, if it's an engine failure, it's certainly the first engine failure in a McLaren during a race this season.
And if it isn't, we'll have an enormous deputation to tell us.
Which we have to say, whether it is or it isn't, it is a fantastic record by Honda to have produced this level of reliability with their engines, and you've got to give them full marks. They've done a fantastic job in Grand Prix racing over the last 3 or 4 years as they've got better and better at their craft, and their reliability is, in a way, even more outstanding than their power superiority.
With the news that Michele Alboreto in the 2nd Ferrari is now up into 3rd position, to the delight of the local populace, and you can see that Alain Prost is still in the pits. The race order on this, the 37th lap out of 51, the quizzical Alain Prost trying to sort out what the problem is by talking to his race engineer Steve Nichols. Senna leading Berger now by 26 seconds. Alboreto is 10 seconds behind Berger. Those are the two Williams judges of Patrese lapping his teammate Jean-Louis Schlesser. Senna leading, Berger 2nd, Alboreto 3rd, Eddie Cheever 4th in the Arrows, Derek Warwick 5th in the Arrows, Capelli 6th. So there are 3.5-litre Judd-powered cars in the top 6. An enormous fillip for John Judd and his men who've built such a terrific engine, their first season of Grand Prix racing, and they're getting the success they deserve. So Senna leading, And in my enthusiasm to talk about John Judd, of course, I'm quite wrong. Senna leading in the Honda-powered McLaren, then Berger in the Ferrari, in third position Alboreto, and then in the Megatron-powered Arrows cars, of course, Eddie Cheever and Derek Warwick. So out goes Alain Prost to join Nicola Larini, Sala, Piquet, Nakajima, Cappi, Ginzani. Alain Prost sadly retiring from the Italian Grand Prix. He failed to finish in Britain at Silverstone. Now he has failed to finish in Italy. Monaco, Britain and Italy, together with the Australian Grand Prix these days, are the premier Grand Prix of the season. And now poor Alain Prost has failed to finish in 2 of them. So Senna well on his way. He is on lap 38 out of 51. Then the 2 Ferraris, then the turbocharged Megatron-powered Arrows of Eddie Cheever and Derek Warwick, looking as though they are both going to finish in the top 6 places to score World Championship points. Tremendous encouragement for Ross Brawn, the Arrows designer, Jackie Oliver, Alan Rees and all the rest of the Arrows men. Confirmation that Derek Warwick, by the way, has signed for Arrows for 1989. You're seeing now Nannini catching the Ferrari. Alessandro Nannini lapping in under 1 minute 31 seconds consistently, and he's about the only person on the circuit who is doing that now. He's catching Gerhard Berger, who is in second place now. Berger is lapping at about 1 minute 31.9. Nannini is lapping 1.5 seconds faster. Don't be confused by this. Alessandro Nannini, for those of you who may only have joined us watching the Italian Grand Prix, had the appalling luck to have an engine problem on the grid and started from the pit lane, lost almost a whole lap before he got away, but has been rocketing through the field, driving superbly. And it's now Senna, Berger, Alboreto, Cheever, Warwick, Capelli, Boutsen, Patrese, Gugelmin, and in 10th position, Alessandro Nannini, who you see chasing the second place Ferrari of Gerhard Berger, unlapping himself. As he does so, if he gets past Berger, he's unlapped himself from Alboreto and everybody except the first 2, Ayrton Senna and Gerhard Berger. Berger will be watching his fuel. Now, Alessandro Nannini, as they go into the Rettifilio, unlaps himself from Gerhard Berger's Ferrari.
Yes, Berger, well aware that Nannini was only unlapping himself, quite content to let him go. Berger, for sure, is more concerned about his fuel gauge than anything else at the moment. Senna, in the meantime, doesn't have any concern. He's back right off on the power. He's slowed up. He's using his big lead to take it easy, save fuel, and just make sure of a finish. Derek Warwick, meanwhile, is still chasing Eddie Cheever hard. He's 2.5 seconds behind him now. And as we've seen so many times this year, the 2 Arrows drivers, they've been Cheever and Warwick, so evenly matched. They've battled away with their private war all season. And there they are, Cheever going through and Derek Warwick chasing hard.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to watch this, because Eddie Cheever, that we are watching now in 4th place with Derek Warwick bearing on him, has been accused of being unduly hard on his tyres, and was certainly harder on his Goodyear tyres in practice than almost anybody else. Came in several times with blistered rear tyres, was complaining about the setup of his car, and some people were saying it's not the car that's the problem, Eddie Cheever is too hard on the tyres. Derek Warwick, there he is in 5th position, followed by Capelli. And there is Boutsen.
And Julian Bailey is having probably his best race of the season. He's in 13th place and pushing René Arnoux hard.
2.3 seconds between Derek Warwick and Cheever. And Cheever is lapping 0.3 of a second slower than Derek Warwick. Race order, Senna lead by 23 seconds. He's lapping 1.3 seconds slower than Gerhard Berger, but such is the lead he has, 23.4 seconds, as you see there, that he can well afford to do so. Ferrari second and third, Alboreto still in that third place, 7 seconds behind Berger. And coming towards us now is Michele Alboreto, driving in his last Grand Prix for Ferrari in Italy. He's just got 4 more to go at the end of this one. Portugal on September the 25th, then the Spanish Grand Prix a week later, the Japanese Grand Prix on October the 30th, and in Adelaide, the last Grand Prix of the year, number 16, on November the 13th. And Gerhard Berger won in Adelaide last year. Here he is, second position in the Italian Grand Prix on his 42nd lap. Just getting a bit closer every lap to Ayrton Senna. Nothing to get excited about though, because as I said, Senna knowing exactly what the position is and knowing that he is on his way to his 14th Grand Prix win of his career, will be taking things comparatively easy by his standards. And Senna, if he wins this race, which he is showing every sign of doing, will join the greats, because not only will he at Italy have achieved more pole positions in a season than anybody else, but he will also have achieved more race victories in a season than anybody else. Actually, Alboreto is closing up on Berger. You can see that just looking at the screen. The gap between Alboreto and Berger was 5 seconds on the previous lap. It looks less than that to me now. Nannini is pulling away. He's on the same lap as Berger now, almost a lap behind him, if you follow me, because he's just unlapped himself. And Michele Alboreto is lapping 2 seconds faster than Gerhard Berger. Over the line goes Berger, over the line goes Alboreto, and the gap is 3.8 seconds. So Michele Alboreto in a terrific charge. He's out to prove something in Italy. Here he is. He's lost his drive for Ferrari at the end of this season. He believes he has lost his drive for Williams. He is very much on the market for 1989, and there are all sorts of background negotiations going on, as you can well imagine. And a second place in the Italian Grand Prix would do very nicely, thank you, for Michele Alboreto. There he is. Lap 43, 51 lap race. Senna leads, 21 seconds ahead of Berger, who is getting closer because Senna is going slower. Alboreto getting closer to Berger too, so the gap between first and third is diminishing. Cheever is still in 4th place, 3 seconds ahead of Warwick, who is 5th. Capelli is 6th, Boutsen is 7th, Patrese is in 8th position, Nannini is in 10th place, Gugelmin is 9th, and Senna has lapped everybody up to Maurizio Gugelmin in the march, who is in 9th position. And watch number 27, Michele Alboreto, coming out of the Parabolica at about 165 miles an hour. You remember what I told you the gap was last time between the second and third Ferraris? Well, now, as Alboreto completes the lap, it is 2.7 seconds. And Alboreto has just put up the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 29.35, charging Michele Alboreto. 1 minute 29.357. He's on his way to second place, to the vast appreciation of the Italian crowd. Michele has got a bit of a persecution complex at the moment. He believes, and I don't know whether he's right or wrong, that John Barnard, the new head man on the technical side at Ferrari, prefers Gerhard Berger as a driver to Alboreto, and I'm sure that there's nothing that Michele would like more than to pass Berger in front of his boss. And he's certainly going for it. Look, 1:29.35. 5 wins Alboreto has had, 3 of them with Ferrari, 2 of them at Las Vegas and Dallas for Ken Tyrrell. And Senna is still well ahead on lap 45 out of 51. And retired from the Italian Grand Prix as the 2 Ferraris come down towards us. Retired have gone Larini, Sala, Piquet, Nakajima, Cafe, Ginzani and Prost.
And Berger has responded, but Alboreto has done yet another fastest lap. And is still closing on Gerhard Berger. Berger under 1:30 for the first time in the race. But Alboreto is still going quicker than him. And there they are, and that must be a tremendous sight for Alboreto to see his teammate in front of him and to be catching him.
What neither James nor I know, of course, is what the relative fuel situation is in the 2 Ferraris. It could be, hypothetically, that Michele Alboreto has decided to cast everything to the winds and go for the second place at the expense of fuel consumption in the hope that he'll finish the race. It could be that Gerhard Berger is determined to be as conservative as he needs to be in order to finish. We'll soon know the answer. 2.4 seconds the gap between Berger. There he is. And he has just retaken Alessandro Nannini, who had unlapped himself in the Benetton. So Berger definitely knows what's happening. .46 seconds. Senna leading by 11.3 seconds. Now the gap has come down quite dramatically now between Senna and Berger. It was 23 seconds when I was calmly saying Senna has got nothing to worry about, but with an 11-second lead, and he's on lap 46 out of 51, I'm pretty certain that Ayrton Senna is, with that metronome mind of his, just ticking the laps away, and the lead that he's got at the end of each lap, which he will know from his pit signals, in order to make quite sure that he's not straining the car himself or the fuel consumption of his Honda engine any more than is absolutely necessary. Senna leading lap 46 out of 51 by 11 seconds. Berger there second. Alboreto there in 3rd position. That is Nannini, who is in 9th position. And it's Chiva, Warwick, Capelli, Boots and Patrese after Alboreto.
And there was Julian Bailey just going through the parabolica, lost a little bit of ground to René Arnoux, who he had been challenging. And Senna has responded to the new lease of life for the Ferraris, who are going particularly quickly behind him now. And Senna still appears very much in control. The gap now 9 seconds, Senna to Berger. And Alboreto still closing a little bit on Berger, but Berger, on the other hand, is responding and going quicker and quicker himself. 2.4 seconds, the gap between Berger and Alboreto.
And Eddie Cheever is really being caught by Derek Warwick now. The gap is only 1.2 seconds. We're looking, of course, understandably in Italy at the battle between the 2 Ferraris, but there's one that is even more enthralling between Cheever and Warwick for 4th place, with Derek Warwick, who's come up from 8th, now in 5th position, catching Eddie Cheever 1 second behind him now. And that is Ayrton Senna, lap 47 out of 51. I'm beginning to get just a little bit suspicious. The gap is... Senna is now under 9 seconds with 4 laps still to go, ahead of Gerhard Berger. And Berger is dramatically quicker than Senna, but only marginally slower than Alboreto. In other words, of the three men in the lead, Alboreto is the fastest, Berger, who is in second place, is second quickest, and now the gap between Senna and Berger is down to 6 seconds. This is getting very interesting and very exciting indeed, because we still have 4 laps to go, including the one that they are on, and Berger is catching Senna quite dramatically.
Alboreto will be very keen to get past Julian Bailey before they get to the second chicane, which he does with the extra power of the turbo. Could it be that Senna used a little bit too much fuel in the early part of the race? Certainly the Ferraris have judged theirs very well, because they wouldn't be going this quickly now if they had any problems for fuel.
Well, I'm going to keep deadly calm myself with difficulty, because if McLaren fail to win this race, and it's not inconceivable that they are going to fail to win it, it would be the first time in 1988 that one of the red and whites had not seen the checkered flag first. There is Senna. The next car is Berger. The next car is one of the Marches, and then as he goes through, it's René Arnoux in the Ligier, and then it is Michele Alboreto. Now we'll see what the gap is between Senna and Berger, and the answer as the Ferrari crosses the line is 4.9 seconds. We are going to have a grandstand finish of the Italian Grand Prix. There are 3 laps to go. Lap 49, this one. Lap 50, the next one. Lap 51, the last one. And that is Alboreto, who is in third place, but Berger is now lapping faster than Alboreto and pulling away from him, and lapping 1 second faster than Senna. But it looks to me as though Senna has controlled things magnificently, because if they go on as they are doing now, Berger will just fail to catch him.
Yes, and Senna has been steadily speeding up as the threat has gathered momentum from Berger behind him. And I would certainly be surprised if Senna had got himself on the deficit side for fuel in a race that he'd been controlling so easily, and I'm sure he's got plenty in hand. And here is the battle of the arrows. Derek Warwick now challenging Eddie Cheever. He's got right on his tail, and this is a big in-house rivalry, very important for Derek Warwick personally, to beat Eddie Cheever, his teammate, and these two really have been tied together by a piece of string all season. We've seen this battle so many times.
Well done, Mr. Producer, and thank you. Everybody in Milton Keynes can stand up and cheer, because these cars are made there, and those cars, the 2 Arrows Megatrons of Eddie Cheever and Derek Warwick, spin! Senna! Ayrton Senna spins! And into the lead goes Berger, into second place goes Alboreto. What a fantastic situation!
And it looks to me as if a rear wheel is a bit askew, or did he just make a mistake? No, from that angle the car looks all right, and he's stuck on the curb, and that's all over for Ayrton Senna. And this really is sensational. If he made that mistake on his own, that would be very surprising.
Surrounded by a bunch of cheering, gesticulating, shouting, overjoyed Italians, and the atmosphere is unbelievable. We are not only going to see a Ferrari win in Italy, we're going to see one finish second. And there is the dejected, broken-hearted Senna walking away. He has done in Italy exactly the same thing as he did in Monaco, spun out in the lead.
And during all that excitement, a lot of excitement for Julian Bailey, because he has managed to get past René Arnoux. Now, here we see again what happened to Ayrton Senna. Well, we see for the first time. Car in front of him locking the brakes, and he definitely got in a tangle, and that was Schlesser, I think.
Yes, it was Jean-Louis Schlesser, and there will be no thanks from Ayrton Senna for that. And now, the Ferrari is on its last lap. You are watching Gerhard Berger, or you were, because there is Gugelmin. Here is the Ferrari, and they are on their last lap.
And Senna certainly has every right to be a very angry man with Schlesser, because Schlesser had gone wide going into the corner, made as if to make space for Senna to go through, and then basically the Senna turned right onto the second apex. Schlesser just T-boned him, and that really was awful.
Well, what an amazing Italian Grand Prix. The unblemished McLaren record has been well and truly smudged by these two cars, and Alboreto is right up now with Berger, and he's going for a win. Alboreto can sense the chance of winning. They're down into the Ascari bends, and if Gugelmin holds up Berger, Alboreto is going to be right with him.
Yes, and Cheever and Warwick now third and fourth. Derek Warwick still battling right behind Eddie Cheever.
Into the Parabolica for the last time, and behind Gugelmin is Berger, who is leading the race. In second place is that man, number 27, Michele Alboreto. It's going to be a fantastic finish for the Italian Grand Prix, and history is being made in 1988. Listen to the crowd. Ferrari wins! Ferrari second. And the first Italian Grand Prix since the death of the great Enzo Ferrari has seen his beloved Scarlet cars from Maranello honour his memory with first and second places, and it's a truly happy crowd.
Yes, and if Ferrari were going to get their one consolation win for the year as a reward for effort, there could be no better place than Monza to do it, and a 1-2 is certainly a fantastic result for them and for the crowd here.
Oh, my goodness. And in third place goes Eddie Cheever, half a second ahead of Derek Warwick. So we've had a storybook Italian Grand Prix with Prost and Senna dominating things, Prost retiring, Senna spinning off in the lead, Berger winning for Ferrari, Alboreto second for Ferrari. There are the two Arrows Megatrons of Eddie Cheever, a magnificent third, Derek Warwick a superb fourth. Ivan Capelli is the top normally aspirated engine driver, fifth place in the March Judd. Thierry Boutsen in the points again, and this is a replay of what happened to Senna at the Rettifilo. Jean-Louis Schlesser up on the curb. Senna goes to take his racing line and is T-boned, harpooned, pushed off the circuit by the Frenchman. And I've just seen Senna walking in, and as ever he appeared totally unruffled, but he must be a bitterly disappointed man.
And even more disappointed than Senna, I would think, would be Alain Prost, who can see that had he not had that trouble with the engine or its ancillaries, would have probably had the win on the plate.
So there is their confirmation then that this astounding Italian Grand Prix has seen history made by the McLaren domination having been broken by Ferrari. A win for Gerhard Berger, half a second ahead of Michele Alboreto in the second Ferrari. Third, Eddie Cheever, half a second ahead of fourth man Derek Warwick. Fifth, Ivan Capelli, and sixth, Thierry Boutsen. A race to remember as the Italians break ranks and flood the course.
Non darei una grossa colpa a Schlesser, in modo avremo agio, figurati quali e quanti argomenti di conversazione, mentre intanto la classifica del mondiale vede Senna sempre al comando con 75 punti contro 72 di Prost. Berger si è portato a quota 37, seguito a 22 da Alboreto, Boutsen va a 21, Piquet, campione del mondo senior, va a 16. Ed ecco, come dicevamo, come speravamo, perché ormai era tempo che non vedevamo, l'invasione della pista non solo nella zona del traguardo ma anche negli altri punti. Io direi che mai come oggi gli spettatori possono essere contenti di essere venuti a questo Gran Premio, che dà un nuovo indirizzo, se così si può dire, a questo campionato del mondo, forse non per quella che sarà l'assegnazione del titolo, ma per quello che riguarda la fiducia nei nostri colori, le possibilità della casa di Maranello di riproporsi come grandissima protagonista in questa più importante contesa mondiale fin dall'anno 21.
Sì, è successo quello che tutti i tifosi Ferrari sognavano ma non osavano sperare, si vede che da qualche parte dell'universo il Gran Vecchio oggi ha messo la sua bacchetta magica da qualche parte, perché sono successe delle cose che non erano mai successe in tutto l'arco del campionato, il ritiro contemporaneo delle due
Linea
McLaren.
Germiani. Sì.
Eccoci qui con Eddie Civer, un bellissimo terzo posto. L'hai detto alla partenza che avresti fatto una bella gara.
Una gara tiratissima, non pensavo di poter arrivare terzo, ma siamo molto contenti.
È una bella soddisfazione a Monza, no?
Il sapore è molto meno amaro adesso.
Bandiere naturalmente, Ferrari sulla pista. Sono immagini, come dico, che era anni che non vedevamo e adesso finalmente ci sia tornati e speriamo che questa sia la grande svolta. Non sarà immediata sotto il profilo tecnico, lo è sicuramente sotto il profilo psicologico, e qui è giusto riconoscere che la maggioranza dei tifosi ha sempre avuto fede, ha sempre avuto pazienza, e questa direi è una dote molto importante, è una dote che non sempre si ritrova ad esempio tra i tifosi delle squadre di calcio, non tutti hanno questa pazienza.
Però devo dire che anche queste vittorie, anche così magari trovate all'ultimo momento, danno sempre un'iniezione di morale e di fiducia a tutta la squadra dopo una stagione sofferta, e quindi sicuramente già da domani a Maranello lavoreranno con un altro spirito.
Ecco intanto che rivediamo l'arrivo in frenata di Senna, che pensa di potersi infilare tranquillamente. Sì, hai ragione tu, Clay, Schlesser è andato sul cordolo dopo, sì, Schlesser doveva dargli strada, invece
non so cosa stava pensando in quel momento, però chiaramente gli è andato addosso.
Guarda che immagini, che moltitudine,
stupendo,
già anche
stupendo.
le riprese dall'elicottero, e diciamo che l'elicottero ci ha portato fortuna, ci ha portato immagini nuove. Noi restiamo ovviamente in linea, la corsa si è conclusa secondo il previsto, quindi abbiamo credo ancora abbondante spazio per commentare questa vittoria Ferrari, che era nei sogni e dei desideri dei più, era in speranze tenute peraltro molto fievoli all'inizio, e noi stiamo aspettando di poter avere altre notizie. Linea Zermiani intanto.
Volevo descrivervi la scena allucinante. Noi abbiamo qui il cellulare della polizia che deve scaricare il primo e il secondo, ovviamente, Berger e Alboreto. Dunque, dicevamo, eccoli, dovrebbero scendere in questo momento. Ecco, c'è un po' di confusione ovviamente. Calma, lascia andare. Via. Berger, Michele.
Sono contento.
Ciao Ecco, io onestamente, guardate, è veramente bello, una sensazione stupenda. Siamo rimasti schiacciati da tutti gli addetti all'ordine, come si può dire. Sono saliti sul podio, vediamo di riuscire a riguadagnare questi scalini con un attimo di calma e di tranquillità. In ogni caso ci ha fatto veramente bene vedere questo Michele Alboreto dire tutta la sua felicità per questo posto sul podio, che gli serve proprio come commiato a questa sua Monza che lui ama tanto.
Ecco, vedete Gerhard Berger, vincitore del 59esimo Gran Premio d'Italia, si avvia sul palco della premiazione. Al suo fianco il direttore dell'Automobile Club di Milano Antolini, il presidente Stucchi Prinetti, sta arrivando anche Michele Alboreto e Eddie Civer. Ecco Alboreto che abbraccia i dirigenti dell'ente organizzatore, c'è Fabrizio Serena di Lapigio, c'è il presidente dell'Automobile Club d'Italia Alessi, che ha abbracciato Alboreto appunto. Vedete sulla sinistra Eddie Civer, pubblico delle grandissime occasioni. La nostra speranza è di poter avere in studio, il collega Ceccarelli sta appunto facendo l'operazione recupero dei piloti dopo la premiazione, e speriamo di poterli avere in studio per un'intervista da parte di tutto il nostro staff. Vedete Berger in conversazione con Civer, Alboreto che saluta felicissimo, sa di di essere arrivato secondo, ma di essere il vincitore morale per aver spinto Berger a forzare l'andatura e a costringere quindi Senna a tenere un ritmo più sostenuto e quindi a rischiare nel sorpasso di Schlesser.
Sì, è chiaro, perché se Senna avesse continuato a girare sull'1.32 sarebbe trovato Schlesser in quella posizione, quindi cambiato, sembrano cose minime, però sono importanti e alla fine il risultato. Chiaramente è un episodio che è successo, ma bisognerebbe in gara sempre fino all'ultimo giro spingere al massimo, perché oggi la dimostrazione c'è stata.
Hai detto bene, Clay, e questa è sempre stata infatti la tua tattica di corsa, quella di tenere un ritmo elevatissimo, che del resto è una tattica che ormai da tempo si era introdotta, che solo recentemente si era dovuta modificare, anche perché l'intervento del discorso consumi aveva frenato anche contro loro voglia i piloti. L'anno 21 il campionato si propone con vetture completamente nuove. Come dicevamo, fine dei turbo, tutti i motori alimentati a pressione atmosferica, come suol dirsi in sintesi, aspirati, 3500 cm3. A Monza comunque un circuito velocissimo, al comando 3 turbo, 2 Ferrari e il 4 cilindri BMW Megatron della Roddy e di Cheever. Nella classifica, dopo 51 giri, mentre vedete l'elicottero della RAI che ci ha proposto le immagini interessantissime della corsa, Berger ha vinto in 1 ora 17 primi, 39 secondi, 744 millesimi. Alboreto è secondo a 502 millesimi di secondo, mezzo secondo. Terzo Cheever a 35 secondi e 532. Quarto è Warwick a 36 e 114, solo mezzo secondo tra Cheever e lui. Quinto è Capelli e anche di lui si può parlare benissimo. Abbiamo avuto grande protagonista la Ferrari, grande Cheever, si è forse parlato poco di Capelli per quanto l'abbiamo citato nella fase del suo duello con Patrese, che è rimasto scavalcato da Putzen. Di Capelli si può dire inoltre che oltre a essere quinto è primo degli aspirati. Peccato che nella lotta tra gli aspirati sia venuto a mancare Nannini, che occupa la 9ª posizione. Dicevamo dunque quinto Capelli, sesto Putzen, settimo Patrese, ottavo Gugelmin. Tutti questi piloti a pieni giri, quindi molto interessante ovviamente la prestazione di queste macchine. Nono Nannini a un giro, ma con la rimonta eccezionale che abbiamo visto. Decimo è Senna, che viene classificato pur essendosi fermato. 11° Schlesser, che è stato causa dell'uscita di strada di Senna. 12° Bailey, 13° Arnoux. Il giro più veloce è rimasto a Michele Alboreto in 1:29.070 al 44° giro, ed ecco Berger applaudito entusiasticamente dalla folla, che alza la coppa di vincitore del 59° Gran Premio d'Italia, 12ª prova del mondiale. E adesso è il momento di Michele con Berger che affettuosamente lo abbraccia, ed ecco la premiazione di Eddie Cheever con il pubblico che francamente, Clay, non avevamo mai visto in questi ultimi anni così grande sotto il podio quando c'erano state le vittorie degli altri, anche dei simpatici, come senza dubbio è il caso di Nelson Piquet, che è il campione del mondo che cede lo scettro, non si sa ancora se al favorito Senna o se forse a Alain Prost. Quello che sappiamo è che possiamo contare su una Ferrari che alla fine della stagione si prepara a passare il testimone alla sua nuova vettura, con la possibilità di essere ancora e nuovamente la marca più competitiva.
Sì, soprattutto che la Ferrari sa di contare sempre ovunque ci sono i tifosi, perché oggi abbiamo visto ancora un tifo incredibile, e queste dimostrazioni quindi sono solo dovute a una Ferrari.
Ecco, intanto vediamo i piloti che stanno allontanandosi dal podio. Ci sono circa 40 metri da qui alla postazione. Dobbiamo supporre che stiano arrivando da noi, li stiamo aspettando, mentre avete visto Zermiani alle prese, ecco, con Berger e Alboreto. Ecco, vedete Ezio Zermiani che si avventa su Alboreto.
Contemi una cosa, le sensazioni tue, ma da quanto tempo l'aspettavi?
Da tanto tempo, direi che il più bel saluto che potevo dare con la Ferrari a Monza. Penso di aver fatto una buona gara e appunto, come dicevo prima, vorrei che l'ingegnere fosse qui oggi.
Grazie Michele, belle parole, grazie.
Ecco Gerhard Berger,
complimenti.
Ecco Clay Regazzoni. Io a questo punto vorrei che Clay, tu cominciassi. Clay, vuoi fare un'intervista a Berger mentre io aspetto? Sì, io aspetterei Michele.
Sì, è arrivato Eddie Cheever, aspettiamo solo Michele, che è stato fermato giustamente un po' da tutti. Ecco, lo vediamo entrare in questo momento con un bellissimo trofeo sotto il braccio. Bravo Michele, complimenti, gara stupenda, li vediamo tutti sudati, traffelati.
Palazza. Lino, no, ci cedo il microfono, comincia tu che intanto io sto coordinando i problemi. Allora, a questo punto approfittando del fatto che sei vicino a Gerhard Berger e che proprio l'altro giorno nell'intervista che abbiamo fatto, Eddie, si era parlato del tuo desiderio, avevi dei dubbi del tuo desiderio di essere ancora telecronista, e a questo punto io vorrei che tu intervistassi Gerhard Berger. Tieni, ti passo il microfono.
Non è ancora ora, tra qualche anno me lo passare. Credo che farei credo che Michele sia più adeguato a questa di poco.
Insomma, qua nessuno si vuole prendere responsabilità. Allora rompo io il ghiaccio. Sì. Ecco, sentiamo prima Michele che sì, anche se è arrivato secondo, mi sembra che, come l'abbiamo detto, sia stato l'artefice di questo successo della Ferrari, perché lui ha spinto Berger all'inseguimento, Berger ha spinto, si era avvicinato a Senna, e poi Senna è stato coinvolto in quell'incidente, ma anche incidente voluto e dovuto, perché lui stava cercando di avere qualche secondo in più. Allora Michele, quando hai deciso di attaccare, perché anche tu si sei messo a un certo punto a girare velocissimo, perché eravate stazionati sull'1.31, poi di colpo hai cominciato a girare sull'1.29.
Il mio problema principale è stato che all'inizio della gara purtroppo avevo la quarta marcia che saltava fuori, e questo mi ha impedito di spingere. Ho cercato di far raffreddare un po' l'olio del cambio senza saltare sui cordoli, e questo mi ha fatto perdere un po' di distacco rispetto a Gerhard. Poi con la macchina un po' più leggera, col cambio un po' più fresco, ho cominciato ad attaccare, la marcia andava un pochettino meglio e ho cercato di andare a prendere i primi. Ce l'ho messa tutta, purtroppo per poco non ce l'abbiamo fatta, però direi che è una gran giornata lo stesso per la Ferrari, e siamo andati credo veramente al limite tutti e due.
Comunque complimenti, sentiamo Berger, vincitore di questo stupendo Gran Premio che ha riportato la Ferrari ai vertici. Gerhard, a un certo punto eri a 26 secondi da Senna, poi Michele è arrivato vicino e tu hai cominciato a spingere. Noi pensavamo che tu avevi qualche problema con la macchina.
Yeah, my engine, after some laps I think the air was coming hot, and I lose quite a lot of power, and I saw it's no way to go with the two McLarens, so I reduced the speed a little bit to get on the safety side from the fuel. But then I saw Michele is pushing a lot. He was driving really fantastic, and I had to drive again on the limit. And then I saw Senna is in troubles too, and I can give a little bit pressure. And it's always like this. If it starts to, you can give pressure, then other people make mistakes or something, or they have to go more on the limit, and then something breaks on the car. And if this point starts, then I think we have quite good chance to win some races. And this happened first time this race, and so it was a chance to win the race.
Sì, lui dice che all'inizio teneva il ritmo delle due McLaren, poi ha avuto un po' la temperatura dell'acqua e dell'olio che era salita, allora ha preferito controllare più la gara. Poi chiaramente quando Michele è arrivato sotto e ha cominciato a spingere, anche lui ha cercato di dare al massimo. Ormai bisognava portare a termine questo Gran Premio, quindi non voleva lasciarsi superare da Michele, e questo l'ha portato vicino a Senna. Poi si è accorto che forse anche Senna aveva qualche problema, quindi non ha più guardato quello che succedeva sui manometri, ha solo cercato di andare più veloce possibile, quindi giustamente poi questa tattica l'ha portato alla vittoria.
Ecco, a questo punto potremmo chiedere un'altra cosa a Berger. Gli sportivi italiani sono ultra felici di questa affermazione e ricordano Berger primo in Giappone, primo in Australia. Ci sono ancora 4 gare in questo campionato del mondo. Tu pensi che la Ferrari, che Berger, che Alboreto possano ancora vincere un'altra corsa di questo campionato del mondo?
Yes, I hope we will win some more races, because last race in Spa I saw we are much more competitive now, and we can give pressure. And so I think now are coming some circuits where the fuel is not such a big problem, and then I think we can do some other good races, and I or Michele will win 1 or 2 other races this year. I hope so.
Dice, naturalmente lo spero, siamo diventati più competitivi e come abbiamo dimostrato già anche del resto in Belgio, a parte la vittoria eccezionale di oggi, possiamo avere più fiducia, abbiamo anche relativamente meno problemi di consumo, quindi io ritengo che o io o Michele nelle prossime 4 gare abbiamo la possibilità di andare a dare ancora una vittoria alla Ferrari. Guardate intanto nelle immagini come sono felici questi tifosi che erano venuti con una piccola speranziella, che vanno via con una grossa vittoria. Lino, vuoi...
Sarebbe curioso sapere da Alboreto cosa ha detto loro l'ingegner Vittorio Chitella proprio nell'imminenza del Gran Premio, dopo che lui ieri aveva detto che avrebbe cercato di fare presto, molto presto, per riportare la Ferrari alla vittoria, ma questo è avvenuto forse con un certo anticipo, Michele?
Sì, in effetti qui a Monza ce l'abbiamo messa tutto per fare contenti gli sportivi e per dare un gran ricordo dell'ingegner Ferrari. Che penso che abbiamo corso più col cuore forse che con la testa, perché a un certo punto abbiamo spinto veramente forte tutti e due, però penso che gli sportivi italiani meritassero questa giornata perché hanno atteso troppo tempo una vittoria sulla McLaren. Non credo che questo possa cambiare completamente le sorti del campionato, però è un piccolo segno che si sta lavorando.
Ecco, direi per te Michele anche un'iniezione di fiducia in una fase delicata nella quale tu nei prossimi giorni dovrai scegliere il tuo futuro.
Sì, direi che ho abbastanza pensieri per la testa in questo momento, però oggi ho cercato di concentrarmi su questa corsa. E appunto...
Lo hai fatto al meglio, dicevamo, sei stato il vincitore morale perché sei stato tu che hai costretto Berger a spremersi oltre il necessario. Lui appunto ha detto stavo amministrando la vettura ma ce l'ho messa tutta, e questo ha costretto Senna a tirare e quindi ha portato al risultato che sappiamo.
Forse era l'unica possibilità che avevamo di vincere, perché lasciare tranquille le McLaren come è successo dall'inizio dell'anno senza possibilità di attaccarle ha significato per loro avere affidabilità e poca possibilità di commettere errori, invece questa volta l'hanno commesso.
Grazie, e a questo punto passiamo il microfono a
Eddie Cheever, anche perché credo lui non abbia avuto, mentre qui rivediamo l'incidente che ha costretto Senna al ritiro e quindi alla via libera per le 2 Ferrari. Ecco, forse era anche evitabile, ma la pressione delle 2 Ferrari forse l'ha costretto a non mollare. Ecco, Eddie, per te non c'è stato il temuto problema dei consumi?
No, purtroppo proprio la parte che ci ha aiutato ad essere molto più competitivi qui, che il motore mi ha dato dei fastidi dai primi giri, per cui pensavo di avere un problema di benzina, sono addirittura rimasto con 7 litri, che sono quasi 3 litri di 3 giri di benzina. Per me questo terzo posto era molto importante, è stata una gara molto difficile e sono contento di vedere che la Ferrari sia ritornata a vincere, ma altrettanto contento che ho una macchina competitiva, per cui non si sa cosa può succedere da qui alla fine della stagione.
E per te questo risultato cosa rappresenta in chiave futura?
Ci penserò domani mattina, in chiave presente mi dà molto piacere, per cui mi goderò questo piacere, poi domani vediamo cosa darà.
Okay. Mario?
Vogliamo tornare un attimo a Michele Alboreto. Siamo ancora sotto ovviamente l'influsso di questo risultato sensazionale, su questo non c'è dubbio. Giustamente Eddie dice, per intanto mi godo questo risultato, poi vedremo il resto. Però il ritmo qui è sempre più serrato, Michele, bisogna pensare anche al futuro. Alla luce della corsa di oggi, i turbo hanno dominato su una pista velocissima come questa, però come possiamo vedere anche delle classifiche, gli aspirati sono riusciti a non farsi doppiare pur essendo stato un ritmo elevatissimo. Credi quindi che l'anno 21 potrete correre con vetture valide?
Ma credo che la differenza dei motori aspirati quest'anno sia forse non così grande come preventivamo rispetto alle macchine turbo. Direi che quasi quasi sono più una sorpresa sui circuiti veloci che non su quelli lenti. Penso che il vantaggio che abbiano col peso può influire quando la macchina è a fine gara, e fare una macchina leggera con una buona aerodinamica significa andare molto forte in curva. Io credo che le Benetton oggi siano fra i migliori telai che ci siano in Formula 1, per cui forse una macchina leggera e con un motore abbastanza potente, non potente come un turbo ma quasi, perché la differenza in cavalli non è moltissima, può permettere a queste macchine di fare delle ottime corse come oggi, credo.
Facciamo un pronostico sulle prossime 4 gare. Tu conosci bene le caratteristiche di questo circuito. Si corre il 25 di settembre sul circuito dell'Estoril vicino a Lisbona, si corre il 2 ottobre a Jerez della Frontera in Spagna, poi si va in Giappone e in Australia a Suzuka e a Adelaide. In base a queste caratteristiche, prima tu, poi Berger, un pronostico su queste corse, un pronostico tecnico.
Ma credo che la prossima gara del Portogallo non sarà proprio il massimo facile per noi, e lo stesso la Spagna. Penso che saranno 2 gare abbastanza difficili per la Ferrari nei confronti della McLaren e anche forse di qualche macchina aspirata. E potremo fare un buon finale di stagione come l'anno scorso, sia in Giappone che in Australia.
Berger, un pronostico sui prossimi 4 Gran Premi: Estoril, Jerez, Suzuka, Adelaide.
I would like the most to win Suzuka.
Giustamente la vittoria a Suzuka è la più importante, perché si vince in casa di questi giapponesi che bene o male sono i grandi avversari, ma credo che la più grossa soddisfazione per Berger sia stato proprio di poter vincere in casa nostra. Ha vinto l'anno scorso in Giappone a Suzuka in casa dei giapponesi, ma questa volta abbiamo vinto in casa nostra e credo che la cosa sia particolarmente importante, vero Michele?
Ma sì, direi che, come ha detto prima Zermiani, mi piacerebbe che l'ingegnere fosse ancora qui a vedere una giornata come questa, perché l'aspettava veramente da tanto tempo. La dedichiamo a lui come ricordo e un po' anche a noi, perché abbiamo lavorato veramente duramente e abbiamo dovuto ingoiare parecchi bocconi amari quest'anno della McLaren.
Anche se tu cedi il testimone, comunque credo che tu lasci alla Ferrari un'indicazione per il futuro che Berger continuerà a portare avanti, e tu anche in un'altra squadra ti sentirai comunque partecipe di questa bandiera che rappresenta l'automobilismo italiano, dove però la molteplicità delle presenze si fa ormai enorme. E io a questo punto vorrei chiamare in causa ancora una volta Eddie. Eddie, io voglio a tutti i costi considerarti uno dei piloti italiani. Tu non ti offendi, vero?
Scusami, sono un po'...
Dicevo, sì, cioè, giustamente. Dicevo, io ti considero nella telecronaca un pilota italiano, è giusto?
Sì, ti ringrazio, anzi, mi meraviglio. Quando vado bene in America sono sempre un americano, quando vado male sono un italiano. Invece l'Italia mi vuole nel bene e nel male, e questo mi dà molto piacere.
Vogliamo ricordare che tu sei qua da quando hai 5 anni e che come formazione hai sposato una donna italiana, vivi una vita in tutta italiana, salvo quando ogni tanto inventi le tue diete che sono tipicamente americane, quindi sei un pilota italiano.
Bisogna sempre ricordare qualche piccola parte della nostra origine, per cui la mia... Sono americano, ma devo dire che vivo in Italia, come tu sai, da tanti anni, ma... Oggi sul podio con tutta quella folla lì sotto era qualcosa veramente di emozionante. Sono dei momenti importanti, direi, non solo nella carriera di un pilota, ma nell'arco della vita di un uomo, che oggi era una giornata speciale. Non ho certamente un mezzo come la Ferrari né come una McLaren, per cui per me arrivare terzo sul podio mi ha dato molta soddisfazione. Poi c'è anche quella parte italiana, non sono italiano quanto Michele, ma comunque vivo qui da bambino, e vedere tutta quella gente era qualcosa di emozionante. Per quello magari in questo momento sembra un po' sfartonato, ma sono ancora sul podio in questo istante.
È giustissimo che tu dica così, è giustissimo, mentre intanto vediamo il vittorioso arrivo delle 2 Ferrari. E Berger e Alboreto lo stanno rivedendo con emozione. Ecco, io vedo il sorriso e il rossore sul viso di Berger. Sono veramente soddisfazioni fuori dal comune. E volevo ricollegarmi a quello che aveva detto Eddie per dire che per lui e per Michele in particolare questo risultato è importante, perché entrambi, ecco, guardate il viso di Berger che adesso riprende la dovuta serietà, ma che era stato veramente commosso. Questo è il viso del vincitore del 59esimo Gran Premio d'Italia. Dicevo, risultati importanti per Michele e per Eddie Cheever, perché sono in una fase delicata della loro carriera. Ce lo dicevi tu l'altro giorno, Eddie, che stai cercando di pensare quale sarà il tuo futuro. Sicuramente la carica psicologica che ti viene da questo grosso risultato ti farà scegliere con maggiore sicurezza e tranquillità, no?
Sì, probabilmente. Purtroppo le decisioni non sono sempre dei piloti, ma è un entourage che sono intorno a delle squadre, per cui tante volte una buona prestazione può migliorare una situazione che magari è negativa, ma non è sempre così.
Ma rispetto a domani, che ormai ci dividono poche ore, un'anticipazione ce la puoi fare per il tuo 89?
Non ho la minima idea, dovrò chiedere a mia moglie, lei è sempre quello che tiene i contatti.
Io direi che Clay potrebbe fare la chiusura di questo 59esimo Gran Premio d'Italia visto qui dagli schermi e al microfono.
Ma come ho detto prima è stato un momento emozionante, quindi rivedere questa Ferrari vincente primo e secondo, quindi mi ha riportato un po' indietro negli anni e come ho detto il commendatore, anche se non è più tra noi, sicuramente da qualche parte ci sta osservando e oggi io ho detto magari lui ha manovrato un po' quello che è successo in pista.
Avere la superlicenza
Ma sì. Con Berger adesso c'è anche motivo di colleganza in più, no? Due vincitori di Gran Premio d'Italia su Ferrari.
Sì, questo è un fatto molto importante, quindi per Berger la prima volta vincitore di un Gran Premio d'Italia, quindi penso che sia anche per lui un'emozione maggiore, no? Vincere il Gran Premio d'Italia.
For me was the best win in my life.
Quindi anche lui ha assaporato quindi il calore di tutto questo pubblico che abbiamo visto felice, gioioso, quindi sono uscite tutte le bandiere che da un po' di mesi non si vedevano, quindi sono esplose in questa gioia, quindi è un ricordo stupendo penso per tutti.
Ecco, avete visto il the best in my life, il meglio nella mia vita fino a questo momento, Gerhard Berger, perché per te si presenta un futuro sicuramente ricco di risultati, perché la Ferrari ha dimostrato con quello che ha fatto oggi di poter puntare sempre più in alto. Io direi è inutile sprecare altre parole, diciamo che siamo tutti commossi, entusiasti, che abbiamo ottenuto tutti, scusate se diciamo abbiamo, ma è una partecipazione corale di tutto questo nostro pubblico, ottenuto un risultato al quale puntavamo con delle speranze tenui che si sono fatte meravigliosa realtà. E adesso si pensa alla Spagna, si pensa al Portogallo, si pensa al campionato dell'anno 21, si continua con molto maggior fiducia. Ci congratuliamo con la Ferrari, ci congratuliamo con quello che è stato fatto, ci congratuliamo con i piloti italiani.
Esatto, volevo appunto dire che nei primi 9 ce ne sono 5 diciamo di scuola italiana, perché comprendiamo anche Civer, quindi certo. Secondo Alboreto, terzo Civer, quinto Capelli, settimo Patrese, nono Nannini. Nannini, che ricordiamo, è partito con un giro di ritardo.
Ed ecco che su questa immagine della coppa di Eddie Civer, e ci sono altre coppe da far vedere, manca quella di Gerhard Berger perché si vedrà troppo grossa, noi ringraziamo ancora, ecco c'è, vogliamo vederla la coppa, prendiamo anche la coppa di Berger con questa ultima inquadratura su questo significativo trofeo. Noi vi ringraziamo per averci seguito, siamo lieti che ci abbiate seguito in questo momento di grande successo per l'automobilismo italiano. Vi diamo appuntamento ai nostri prossimi notiziari sportivi e per quel che riguarda le dirette ai prossimi Gran Premi di Formula 1 con rinnovata fiducia nei confronti della Ferrari e dell'Italiana. Grazie per averci seguito e buon pomeriggio.
And from a euphoric Monza, it means, of course, that the Drivers' World Championship is still commandingly led by Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, with just 3 points separating them. Gerhard Berger third, Michele Alboreto fourth, and Thierry Boutsen fifth. McLaren, of course, have won the Constructors' World Championship, but with their first and second places, Ferrari have extended their lead in second place over third place Benetton. Gerhard, I think after today you can ask for anything you like in Italy and it's yours.
Yeah, I hope so, but times change quick and I think it's not enough to win just one race. But I'm really happy and I think it was my nicest win.
Tell us your story of those last few fantastic laps.
Oh, it was very easy. I just saw Senna again. I pushed a lot. and can give some pressure. Senna spin off. I was quite happy because then I was leading. And I know it's very difficult, but if you can give some pressure, people make mistakes or something happen. If you don't have pressure, people just, like McLaren raced their last races, can do just everything easy.
What a magnificent win for Ferrari.